Hi everyone. If you've ever sent a pitch and thought, did a human even read this? This video is going to completely change how you understand newsrooms. Because today, I am breaking down exactly how newsrooms actually work behind the scenes, how stories get picked, why most pitches gets ignored, and what PR teams consistently get wrong. Let's start with understanding the myth and the reality. Let's start with the biggest misconception. So, the myth is that journalists carefully read every pitch and choose the best one. But in reality, newsrooms are speed driven filtering machines where reporters receive 50 to 300 emails per day. Editors are managing multiple deadlines simultaneously. Most decisions are made in seconds. So, you see how quick things are happening within the newsrooms? You are not competing on quality alone, you are also competing on speed, clarity, and relevance in the first 5 seconds. So, what actually happens inside a newsroom? Let's break down the real workflow. So, it starts with morning editorial meetings where editors and senior journalists decide what's trending, what needs coverage today, what angles are worth pursuing. So, if your pitch doesn't fit a current narrative or trend, it's already at a disadvantage. Then we have story assignments. These stories come from editorial direction, which is also planned content, breaking news, or external inputs like PR pitches. But the catch is that most PR pitches are rarely the starting point. They are usually used to support or enhance an existing story idea. So don't pitch a story, pitch how you improve a story they are already working on. Next is the inbox reality. Here's what actually happens when your email lands. So journalists scan subject line, which takes approx 2 to 3 seconds. They open it if they find it relevant. Then they skim first two lines, decides instantly. They either go with use now, save for later, or they ignore it. If your value isn't clear in the two lines, you are done. Next is Slack or internal chats matter more than you think. So, the modern newsrooms rely heavily on multiple things actually. So, it can be Slack channels, it can be internal dashboards, and real time collaboration. But the journalists usually ask for sources, they share quick finds, they decide angles. So, if a journalist can easily copy paste your quote into Slack, you are 10 times more likely to be used. And which is why we always try to focus on the point that your pitch and the email that you send to the journalist should be published ready, which means it should have everything the journalist is looking for. It can be, if they're asking for an uh, personal experience, go ahead with that. If they are asking for some other certain specific questions, answer only that. So your pitch should be concise and something that they can literally copy paste. So how stories actually get chosen? Journalists don't ask, is this a good pitch? What they ask is this timely? Does this add a new angle to the story they're already working on? Can they turn this into a story in under an hour? And the effort versus reward filter, which is something where every story goes through this mental equation where effort required versus story payoff. So, if your pitch requires explanation, needs follow ups, lacks clear angle, it gets dropped. So, the best pitches feel like 80% of the article is already done. Let's understand why most PR pitches fail. Let's be real, most pitches fail for predictable reasons. First, they are too self promotional. So, when I say self promotional, it is a pitch that sounds like we are excited to announce, we are excited to launch. Journalists don't care about your announcement, what they care about is impact. And If your pitch is bringing impact to their article, then that's the pitch they are going to select. When there is no clear angle, for example, if your pitch has thought this might be interesting, so this might be that you add on your pitch, that is an instant delete. When your pitch is not time sensitive, which means if it's not urgent, it's not important, then your pitch is hard to use because there is no data, no codes, no context. So if they have to work to use your pitch, they won't. So here's what PR teams should do instead. And this is where you win. Pitch like you are in the newsroom. Ask yourself, would I assign this a story if I were the editor? Second, lead with the angle, not the brand. If your pitch has, we are a company that do this, that is a bad pitch angle. If I were to write it in a better way, I would have written, new data shows X trend is increasing by 40%. Here's why it matters. So you see the difference. Then next is make it plug and play. You need to include ready to use codes, data points, clear headline ideas into your pitch. So the goal is to make the journalist think that they can publish this fast. Next, align your pitch with timing. Tie your pitch to current news, trends, seasonal hooks, because timing is also an essential element when it comes to pitch. Next is be a source and not a seller. The best professionals don't pitch stories, they become go to sources for the journalist. Now, the hidden opportunity most PR teams miss, and this is the biggest insider secret. Journalists are constantly looking for reliable, fast, insightful sources. So, if you respond quickly, you provide sharp insights, understand their needs, you move from random pitch to trusted contact, and that's where consistent coverage comes from. So, if you take one thing from this video, it's this that newsrooms don't run on great ideas. They run on fast, usable, relevant information. And if you can match that speed and clarity, you stop chasing coverage and start getting it consistently. So, let me know your thoughts on this. And if you have any doubts, as usual, you can let me know them in the comments down below. And I will see you in the next one.